Also, our representatives from the Regional NISA team, thank you. Thank you for being here. We need to have your voices. And Daniel McMullen, the Assistant Secretary for Education. What we're doing here today is something I've been focused on for the last 2 years. Since I became governor and we're just getting through the pandemic, I started asking parents and seeing children in a very different place. I have teenage nieces and nephews, I have my own children, and it started occurring to me, we need to start finding out what happened to our young people during the pandemic. How is their mental health? Because the numbers were starting to be frightening. Statistics showing that the number of children suffering from anxiety and depression and dark thoughts, and even 1 out of 3 teenage girls contemplating suicide, was something that was very abnormal. These were new numbers for us to have to grasp with and comprehend. And so I started having roundtables on mental health, going to high schools, middle schools all over the state, sitting down with young people and just asking them, what's going on? What are you hearing in school? How are you feeling? And what I came to the stark reality that while adults had moved on from the pandemic, it was 2 years later, rear view mirror, we dealt with it, we're done with it. It has still had a hold on our young people. This was when you think about statistically, a larger percentage of their life for young people than it was for adults, right? So this is a large part of their existence. Teenagers who so rely on, the milestones, the graduations from middle school and high school and the proms and the gathering with their friends and going to football games together. They lost all that, and their only connection with the reality to them was their cell phone, their device. And teachers did their very best to try and teach young people remotely. They put their heart and soul in it, and it had to be so difficult for them. And I would say that was not a resounding success for teachers, parents, or the students. But the young people found no longer human connection, but connection to others through social media, and became far more reliant on it than they had been in the past. Couple that with the fact that social media companies figured out that they could use addictive algorithms to bombard young people with messaging that would hold their attention, because they based this on knowledge they had collected about these young people unbeknownst to them. So they're out there collecting data and knowing what they can push to a young person and hold them in even closer. If a young person says or mentions suicide online, they're not getting bombarded with places to get suicide help or adult counselors or positive messages. They literally can be shown ways to commit suicide within a very short time on social media, and that's the truth. So it was not a positive outcome for our kids. We took this on. I thank my partners in the legislature for working with me and our Attorney General, Tish James, to come up with the first in the nation legislation to rein in social media companies and say that you can no longer send out these algorithms without parental permission. It's still being developed right now by the Attorney General, the regulations. We also said you can no longer monetize our children's mental health. You can't collect this data and sell it to other companies so they also can bombard young people based on their interests. So we stopped that, and also said parents should have a right to be able to switch off their children's cell phones and let them get some sleep. Our kids are sleep deprived. I talked to teenage nieces. They said, why are you up all night on your cell phones? Aren't the people you're talking to in bed? Turns out they have networks around the world. They make friends with the other kids in other countries, and they're literally talking to young people in different time zones who are not in bed at that time. So this is the reality of our kids. And meanwhile, we have 72% of teachers surveyed who say this is a huge distraction. Cell phones in classrooms are a huge barrier to their ability to teach and hold the attention of our students. It's nothing any of us had to deal with when we were growing up. Again, my kids in their 30s, it was just starting, but nowhere near what it is. And it's up to us as adults to have the conversations as I have. I was in Albany, Long Island, we did Binghamton yesterday, now I'm back in West Virginia, to listen to the people who this will most affect, our superintendents, our principals, our teachers in the classroom, parents, PTA. And I was really proud that as I sat with Melinda Pearson, the head of NISA for the state, who said, we're with you on doing something about this. You know, we cannot, this can no longer be sustained. It is just too hard. And lastly, I'll say this. I've long believed that as jobs as parents and educators, not to raise children, but to raise adults. We want to launch them as fully functioning, adjusted individuals into the world, into the workplace, so they can understand while they're younger what it's like to share, what it's like to work collaboratively, what it's like to make eye contact and develop relationships and friendships. This is not happening today. Young people in lunchtime are not talking to the person sitting next to them. They're talking to someone far away. They're not even making eye contact or connecting. This is not good for their mental health. It's not good for them to emerge as fully functioning adults. And my view is, as I heard from one young person, I said, you know, why can't you just stop? She says, you have to save us from ourselves. We can't stop. We cannot stop holding this. And they were holding it on their cell phone while they're sitting there talking to the governor of New York. They could not put their phones down because it is addicting, and many adults know that as well. So I'm here today to listen. I'm proud the superintendent has agreed to host us. I want to have him kick off the conversation, but I have learned so much from doing this. It has helped shape my views very strongly now, even more so than when I launched this journey, because I'm hearing a cry for help from our young people, and we are the ones who can help them. And that's what I want to make sure we end up doing. So, Superintendent, thank you for your time today and being willing to kick off the conversation.
Well, thank you very much, Governor Hochul, for joining us here in Kenton. And good morning to everyone that is here this morning. My name is Sabatino Samato. I am the superintendent in Kenton, and I want to thank everyone for taking the time to come out for this roundtable discussion. Now, Governor Hochul, I'm not as good as sticking to the script as you are and keeping the going. They tell me all the time in Kenton, so I wrote down my words to make sure that I keep us focused for the morning. So bear with me as I read just a little introduction. Thank you, of course, to our governor for taking this approach of listening and learning about the impact of cell phones in education. When the Kenton School District was asked by Governor Hochul's office to host this roundtable discussion, I was conflicted about how I truly feel about this topic. I know for me personally as an educator, social media has been the bane of my existence. But as a promoter of technology in the classroom, I found myself always a proponent of new and existing ways